Here's to the fans of The Vampire Diaries, Grimm, Supernatural, The Walking Dead, True Blood, Sleepy Hollow, and the host of other horror series that take primetime television by storm every week.
It is this pool of fans that is perhaps most influential in shaping our definition of pop culture. But we've all been there, glued to the screen as visions of fictional horror flash by, falling in love with heroes, taking sides in imagined wars of good and evil, suddenly finding ourselves sympathetic to the plight of the villain. Week after week, hour after hour, we crave the tangled emotions of the monstrous questions. We want the writers to tell us that we all have a choice, that the evil inside of us can be conquered and we can always choose good. Make it entertaining, make it intriguing, make it full of plot twists and betrayal, and you've got the recipe for the next hit horror drama. However, the questions raised by that show can cause some interesting psychological changes, and those changes occur in our social psyche, which is essentially the way people see each other and the world around them. Since our social psyche is constantly challenged by pop culture's characters, we can clearly see that we are psychologically malleable. That is to say that we can be changed, bent, and influenced by our surroundings. Our potential for that change is laid out in our minds. We're all born with a blueprint of potential, which determines which habits, behaviors, and personality traits we're most apt to display. But the X factor, the thing that determines the degree to which that blueprint is expressed, is our surroundings. Essentially, they determine the malleability of every individual's psychological fingerprint. And through our immersion in pop culture, monsters have certainly become a part of those surroundings. The trick of these monsters, though, is that they don't allow for a quick judgment of their character. They fall into a category Sigmund Freud classified as the uncanny. Things so far from familiar, but somehow related, or so close to familiar, but not quite there. Like a doll that looks disturbingly human. You can think of fear of the uncanny as the one that sends chills up your spine and keeps horror fans coming back. Beyond just fear, though, for our modern monster to keep you asking questions, he has to keep challenging your concept of his value as a human, a monster, or something in between. As you sit there, you struggle with a process called recognition. Recognition theory is one of the major psychological players in the world of humanized monsters. Put simply, recognition indicates the acknowledgement of someone's value as a human being. One person acknowledges that the other is a separate being capable of recognizing the first, and vice versa. In real life, recognition occurs without hesitation, each party effectively shaking hands with the other or potentially refusing to. In the realm of pop culture, however, recognition has to be brought closer to the forefront of the viewer's mind as he wrestles with the betrayal of the characters. In the case of monsters, the question is often, does this character earn the title of humanity? And since the interaction is not as simple as when you're talking to an actual person, your brain has to constantly work to understand the information given about the character in question. So combine the fear of the uncanny and the recognition of human values in something fundamentally inhuman, and left is a widening gray area between the human and the monstrous. In creating that gray area, the creators of pop culture have often relied on a blending of character types and traits. Even heroes are not clear-cut and easy. Take, for example, Dean Winchester of Supernatural. Through the 10 seasons, Dean's character revolves around a few basic personality traits: protectiveness, introversion, self-sacrifice, stubbornness, and a need to be actively doing something good. However, in the finale of season 9, Dean becomes a demon. And the continuation of that story through season 10 indicates that some part of Dean always longed for the darkness he can finally give himself over to. That shift is difficult, even painful for the viewer, whose understanding of the main character is challenged because Dean is no longer the steadfast representation of the good soldier, but rather is psychologically altered himself. In contrast to Dean, Dexter, the murdering psychopath, becomes more human as his story arcs through the seasons. From the isolated individual hiding behind a screen of completely faked emotions, he gains friends, raises a family, and begins to think of himself as an actual person, rather than a monster with no emotion, no sympathy, and no human feeling. Though he wavers on the subject at times, Dexter generally realizes that his family matters to him, beyond just their purpose as camouflage for his psychological deficiency. This shift is significant to the viewer's perception of him. From the classic anti-hero, he rises to become a character that resonates more deeply with the average viewer. And that can be a frightening epiphany, to realize that one shares emotions with a serial killer. It seems unrealistic, but that connection certainly has its impact. Now, for each of you sitting here before me, this discussion of changed characters and changed psychology plays a part in your lives every day. I conducted a survey to test this theory, that we're psychologically impacted by our immersion in pop culture, asking participants to read a story and answer questions about a character. The results found that out of 38 responses, 20 defined the main character as monstrous, while 18 defined him as human. Almost a 50-50 split. This mixing of definitions is what makes the monster so important to our understanding of humanity. So, while you may not have been aware of it, your favorite monsters, well, perhaps they mean something about you. I leave you today with this. You're about to be introduced to numerous new ideas, and some of them may challenge your understanding of the ability and ingenuity of your peers. Be open to them, take it all in, and most of all, enjoy them. Thank you all, and welcome to Launch 2016.
You have just heard from Mary Beth Barksdale, whose thesis, Of Monsters in Men, a study of popular culture's monsters and their influence on the social psyche, acknowledges the ever-growing grey area between human and monstrous characters. Mary Beth speaks to us all, urging us to consider just how psychologically malleable we all are as humans. Seemingly benign Netflix binges are actually remolding and reshaping the way we see our world. And in this case, the way we define what is human and what is monster. The popular culture that we engage with daily has a powerful hold on us all, indeed. Mary Beth is advised by Dr. de Gravel and recently presented her research at the Southwest Popular Culture Association Conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And now, to echo Mary Beth's final sentiment, we welcome you to Launch 2016. Today is a day to feel inspired and to find the subtler messages beneath the surface, as Mary Beth seeks to do. Popular culture is changing the way we see our world. How might Launch 2016 change the way we interact with each other, the way we see each other and ourselves? At this time, please move to your next location with your advisory group. Thank you, and please enjoy the day.